get started. Calling the meeting to order here at 10:04. Mr. Williams, if you could please call roll.
Yes. Mr. Jeffries, Mr. Morales, Mr. Malzanek, Mrs. Hill,
Present.
Mr. Petrowski,
Present.
Mr. McElvaney,
Here.
Mrs. Seitz,
Present.
Mr. Jorgensen, Mr. Wilson,
Present.
Mr. Wojak, Mr. Cohn.
Present.
Madam Chair, we do have a quorum with 6 members.
Great, thank you. Moving on to item number 3, proposed change to prior FSAB approved section 108.2 of the 2024 International Fire Code to be incorporated into the Phoenix Fire Code. I believe Mr. Williams, you'll be presenting on this.
Yes, thank you. Madam Chair, members of the Fire Safety Advisory Board. First off, I'd like to start by expressing our ongoing gratitude for all the time, effort, and energy you dedicated to our code development process. Thanks to your passion and dedication as a board, we will have a fire code that is focused on community risk reduction, is open to new and emerging technologies, and is development friendly. It is a code that will serve our community and first responders for many years to come. And again, we sincerely thank you for making that possible. With that said, out of the 870 plus amendments that you reviewed, discussed, and approved, we have one that we'd like to revisit for a slight adjustment. On the screen, you will see section 108 as initially proposed to and approved by this board. It is a combination of our current code language for fees and the base 2024 IFC. However, after additional review, we noticed the 2024 International Fire Code added the words "where a permit is required" at the beginning of this section, which changes the meaning significantly. This section is critical because it supports our authority to use the fee schedule, not just for permits, but all fire prevention activities. After consulting with our legal team and the fire marshal, we believe that the best course of action is to revert to the existing language in our current fire code as it is today, as shown on the bottom section of the screen. This language will ensure we maintain the authority to apply our fee schedule as intended. We ask that the board approve this adjustment so that we can include it in the amendment packet for council review and action. With that, this concludes my presentation. If I can address any questions the board may have.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Great.
Madam Chair, this is Joe McElvaney. I'll make a motion to accept this item.
Great, thank you so much. May I have a second?
I'll second. This is Jim.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstained? Thank you. That motion passes. Thank you so much, Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Moving on to item number 4. I believe Chief Kreis will be presenting on the proposed adjustments to the fire prevention fee schedule.
That's correct. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Good morning. I also have online, not sitting in the room with us, but online, our colleague Adam Miller from the Planning and Development Services Department. He'll be helping with the presentation. With that, go ahead and get started. I'll also say it's good to see the board this morning and thank you for your continued support.
Thank you.
But what we're going to present on is something that has been presented to the Development Advisory Board, and Adam will discuss that. So it's the same presentation as providing Jem, you of course on the board, so you saw it, Madam Chair. And we're going to share a proposal that we are working on to increase our user fees and some fire prevention fees, and be subject to this. Adam, why don't you sort of kick this slide off, and I'll kind of shepherd you through since I have the clicker here and follow up on my part of this slide. Can you do that, Adam?
Yes, I'd be happy to do that. Thank you, Chief Kreis. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the Fire Safety Advisory Board. Thanks for the introduction, Chief Kreis. As Chief Kreis said, my name is Adam Miller. I am the Growth and Infrastructure Administrator for the City of Phoenix. I oversee a division in the Planning and Development Department called Growth, Infrastructure, and Financial Services. So my team's responsibilities include the city's growth projections. We use that information to work with our partner departments, including the fire department, for infrastructure planning and funding strategies. And then we also oversee the planning and development department's fee setting and accounting responsibilities here. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning. And as the chief said, we have gone through this presentation with the Development Advisory Board. Happy to be here with the Fire Safety Advisory Board. And I think part of what I want to do to sort of set this up is to say that I'm going to be focusing on planning and development fees, but so much, really all of the context for the proposed increase to the planning and development fees carries over to the fire department. And I'll ask Chief Kreis to talk more about the partnership that we have between planning and development and fire. But just to kind of start us off with a Thanksgiving pun, just to take a close look at what's on the table here. So what we're talking about are user fees. These are not taxes. These are not development impact fees. These are fees that are charged to customers for services that are rendered by the Planning and Development Department and by the Fire Department. For the purpose of planning and development, we are looking only at our existing fees and updating fees that are based on a fully loaded hourly rate. And we'll get more into that detail, but I'd like to just pause here, give Chief Kreis an opportunity to speak to our partnership and to provide us a summary of some of the additional fee types that Fire Department is considering with this proposal. Go ahead, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. I appreciate that very much. So as Adam discussed, the partnership with Planning and Development Services, from my perspective, and I believe from the customer's perspective as well, is about as good of an example of interagency collaboration as I have seen in my career. That partnership continues to get stronger every day. And what that means for us as departments and for the community we serve is that we work together on essentially everything. It's true that the fire department has employees of the same classification in the fire department as PDD has the same types of employees, inspectors and fire protection engineers and team leaders and so on. We utilize the same operating systems. I'm some on the call, some members of the board will find this sort of humorous, is I started with fire prevention using the Kiva system, which is a system for tracking and managing efforts on both departments that we have used together for a long time because we need to be aligned on everything we do for our outcomes for the community and our outcomes for the customers. What we have also had a long history of doing is because the factors for planning and development services, the development fund, the factors associated with employee compensation, organization costs are perfectly aligned and almost identical for both planning and development services department and the fire department, which is why we continue our partnership hand in hand, even through the code adoption process, which is another wonderful example. This board knows with your support and excellent work on the adoption of the 2024 International Fire Code process, which is going to council here very soon. We appreciate your support and work in that process. That's another example of collaboration as the Planning and Development Services Department just recently, I think maybe 6 months ago, Adam, maybe less, had adopted the updates to the International Building Code and Associated Code. So we work very, very closely together. So one aspect that we're proposing moving forward is an increase in the hourly rate, both for Planning and Development Services and fire, which we'll discuss in more detail in the coming slides. Specific for fire prevention, as this board is aware, there are a couple other factors here for us. And one of those is the user fees that are associated with new operating permits in the 2024 code. And the last piece is our Special Hazards Annual Assessment Program, which I'll discuss in more detail later in the presentation. With that, I'm going to kick it back to Adam and I'll advance your slides, sir, and take it away.
Great, thank you, Chief. So why are we bringing this forward today? Well, looking at the bottom of the slide, you can see that the last time we had user fee increases for the Planning and Development Department was in 2010. We established an hourly rate of $150. This is a fully loaded average hourly rate for all of our disciplines. In 2010, has not been updated since. The fire department followed shortly after in 2013 with that same hourly rate for all the reasons that Chief Christ just outlined. I'll also just highlight that the program fee, the special hazards program fee that the Chief mentioned, has not been updated since 2003, and he'll circle back to more detail on that in just a moment. So what has changed since 2010? Well, we've seen an increase in the consumer price index of about 50%. Anybody who spends any time anywhere in Phoenix can observe that we have experienced an rapidly increasing volume of development activity, and that within that development activity, we are handling the most complex types of developments in the country. Anything from the high-rise apartment structures that are being constructed downtown Phoenix to the chip manufacturing facilities that are being constructed in North Phoenix. Importantly, a year and a half ago, Council improved a new employee compensation package. That was important for the Planning and Development Department and the Fire Department to ensure that we're able to retain and able to recruit the best talent in order to handle that increasing volume and complexity of work. That compensation package took effect, like I said, about a year and a half ago, and because the Planning and Development Department, specifically in this case, is a self-funded department, it was necessary, or it is necessary, for us to match that increased cost with an adjustment to our fees. Next slide, Chief.
Second, sir.
So this is a look at the development fund. And again, this is an isolated self-funded enterprise fund or special revenue fund at the city. We are not receiving a general fund allocation for our development services. So these are our plan review, inspections, and permitting services that we perform. We do receive a general fund allocation for planning work that is handled by the Planning and Development Department. But when it comes to building safety, civil plan reviews, and all of our field inspections, that is all covered through the Enterprise Development Fund. This chart is looking at our fund balance since 2020. And what you can see is it really starts to take a dive, and that directly correlates with the compensation package that had been approved by Council in fiscal year 23. And so this is our forecasted fund balance under the current fee schedule. Now go ahead and advance once, Chief. Adding on top of this, that green line is what our target fund balance would be. And so you can see that we were tracking pretty well with our target fund balance up until fiscal year 23-24. And then we started to see a big gap. And that's that structural deficit that we have between our annual expenses and revenues. We seek a 1-year operating fund balance. It's kind of an industry standard. And the reason for that really ties back to our budget reality of being an enterprise funded, self-funded operating department within the city. We want to make sure that we have the funds to be able to respond to economic changes, whether those are increases in activity and being able to react by increasing our staffing and resources and technology investments, or if those are downturns in economic activity where we need to float a low cycle in permit activity because we're not going to be bailed out with a general fund allocation. The other side of that coin that I just want to highlight is that when we go through the budget process, when the city goes through the budget process, Council doesn't need to be concerned with planning and development costs as it considers their other priorities for public safety and other leisure services, parks, libraries that are funded through the general fund. Go ahead, Chief. So what have we been doing in the Planning and Development Department? We certainly recognize that when we bring a proposal that involves a fee increase to council, that this isn't just a revenue conversation. This is a broader conversation of how what steps are we taking to improve our service levels? What steps are we taking to control our costs? We have been working very closely with our stakeholders and customers through a series of listening sessions to implement process improvements. And those activities are in the works, they're ongoing, and we're continuing those conversations on a regular basis going forward. As Chief Christ mentioned briefly, we recently are in the process of replacing a legacy permitting system, the Kiva system, with a new system called SHAPE that utilizes the latest and greatest technology that will help us do a better job of managing our permitting as well as increasing turnaround times, scheduling improvements for inspections, and really an across-the-board improvement, taking advantage of the best technology. Again, as Chief Christ mentioned, we have updated our building code. I believe the building code was approved by council in June. Fire will be going in December. And then finally, on this slide, I want to highlight our financial stability plan. I want to highlight that the structural deficit that we're experiencing today, it didn't come as a surprise. We knew that this was going to be happening with the approval of the compensation package. We have been taking steps to address this, sort of really hitting with the low-hanging fruit first and trying to advance additional measures incrementally over time with this proposed fee increase today. But beginning last January, we did update our building valuation tables in our permitting system. Those tables had not been updated since 2010. So we were a long ways behind on the valuation side. And you can think of our valuation tables very similar to how the county assessor uses valuations for calculating property taxes. We use valuations for calculating certain building permit fees. We have also been implementing some cost control measures, particularly where we've seen significant increases in costs in recent years. An example that most people have experienced in their daily lives are increasing costs for credit card processing. We have actually seen our credit card processing move up to 3-4% of our annual operating budget. And so we're taking steps to address the impact of credit card processing fees, as well as other cost control measures that we can take care of and improve on. And then finally, we have included in our latest budget funding to conduct a comprehensive user fee study. And so this is an effort that will bring in a third-party consultant and expert in development service process, an expert in development service funding and financing, where they'll be looking at every one of our business processes, reevaluating the time that it takes to perform these duties. And in particularly, we recognize the importance of updating this because of the integration of some of the new technology and how that has affected our business processes, and namely transitioning from almost exclusively paper plan sets that we're receiving from customers to almost exclusively digital plans that are able to be reviewed and commented on digitally. Go ahead, Chief. Okay, so we looked at several paths forward, and you can go to the next slide. Several options for cost recovery. As a department within the city of Phoenix, a local government development services department, one of the things that we cannot do is we cannot run a budget deficit. And so without any change to our fees, without a revenue adjustment, we would be forced to cut services, to reduce our budget, to reduce our annual expenses, and that would translate to cutting our services. We've certainly heard from council, from our stakeholders, that there's not a lot of interest in seeing our department reduce service levels. In fact, quite the opposite is the direction that we're trying to go in, as I noted earlier. And so we're really hoping we can continue the investments that we've started, continuing the momentum that we've begun with our process improvements. But without a revenue adjustment, cutting services would be the only option. We looked at an option that would slow the trend. I mentioned before that we have a fee study in the works. We're expecting the outcomes of that fee study to be available in the late 27, early 28 timeframe. And so we looked at what it would take just to kind of float our fund balance until that time that the fee study would be completed. To accomplish that is about a 13% increase in our fees. The risk of that is if we did see a slowdown in economic activity, we would have no fund balance. We would end up having to cut services. So there's still a risk of service level cuts if we followed option 2. Under option 3, the idea there is to just flatline our fund balance where it is today until the fee study is completed. If we do the option 3, we'll still see a growing gap between our fund balance and our target fund balance of 1 year of operating. If we were to see a decline in economic activity, we may have to cut services, but it would really make it difficult for us to continue with the momentum and the investments that we've been making in recent years. And so staff's recommendation is number 4, which we've called build resiliency. And go ahead and move us forward, Chief. And if you would just go ahead and click, I think 4 times we'll start with. There we go. And so under the build resiliency option, this would increase our hourly rate by 30% from $150 to $195. This would be a full cost recovery and begin to shrink that gap between our existing fund balance, or forecasted fund balance, I should say, and our forecasted target fund balance. There would be a very low risk of any service level cuts in the short term under this option. We would certainly be continuing with some of the smart investments that we're making. One of the things that we're hearing from council and from our stakeholders is a desire to look at artificial intelligence possibilities within our functions. And this would also put us in a good position for implementing the outcomes of the fee study. And what I mean by that is if we can do an incremental fee increase today, then when we get the outcomes from that fee study, it's unlikely that we're going to see another large increase recommended from that, but we'll be more turning dials and refining how our fee structure applies to our customers, ensuring that we're cost recovering the right amounts for each discipline. Go ahead, Chief. So this is the same chart that I had shown you before, with the growing gap between our target fund balance and our forecasted fund balance. And next slide. And this shows what that fund balance looks like, what our forecasted fund balance would be under the recommended increase of 30% to the hourly rate. And so you can see that it tracks closely with the targeted fund balance of 1 year operating. It does actually begin to close that gap slightly in advance of the outcomes of the fee study that I've mentioned. Go ahead, Chief. Okay, so just real quickly, how does this stack up regionally? That's always a question that we're going to receive. Under the 30% increase, we would see a residential building permit. This is for a home valued at $700,000, increasing about $1,400, a little over $1,400, compared to our neighboring cities. And one of the things I want to point out here is none of these neighboring cities operate as self-funded departments. Phoenix is actually the only municipal provider in the state that is a enterprise department. And in fact, we're one of just 2 major cities in the Western United States, Houston being the other. So all of these neighboring communities where you can see that their comparable permits would be less, those cities are also receiving an allocation from their general fund where Phoenix is not. Go ahead, Chief. The next slide here is just kind of the same thing, but looking at a commercial permit, the permit today is about $7,200. That would bump up about $2,000 to $9,253. And again, this one we're looking at $1 million commercial. As far as comparing to our neighboring cities, this chart looks very similar to the prior one. And now I'm going to pass it back to Chief Christ to get into the stuff you really want to hear about, the proposed fire fee increases. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Board.
Thank you, Adam. Appreciate that. So as I discussed in the first slide, and before I continue, we did make some adjustments to the microphone. And maybe your sites, can you hear us better now?
I mean, it's definitely a little crackly. Adam was clear as day, so he
Adam was
set the
clear as day.
bar on very clear. I would, if there are more adjustments you can make, I think the board would appreciate it.
Okay, I will speak louder. We did make another adjustment. How are we doing?
That's better, thank you.
Outstanding. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So the Special Hazards Annual Assessment Program is part of our Special Hazards Unit. Special Hazards Unit was created in the year 2000 by council action to facilitate better services and more inspections at facilities that store, handle, and use significant quantities of hazardous materials in the city of Phoenix. Special Hazards Program identifies, permits, and inspects these facilities. And there's about 1,600 facilities in the city of Phoenix. The last time that a SHU fee increase was done was in the year 2003. So it's been a very long time. While we have, as a city, increased our hourly rate, as Adam discussed, in 2010 for PDD and 2013 for the fire department, we have not increased our our Special Hazards Unit annual assessment fees since 2003. Pardon me, gotta make it quick. So what is a Special Hazards Unit and what do we sort of inspect types of facilities? We divide them into 5 groups. And the first group, group 1, is smaller facilities that store, handle, and use hazardous materials. And examples of those would be paint stores, metalworking. Group 2 facilities are medical offices, auto shops as examples. Group 3 facilities are large users of hazardous materials, and they include chemical manufacturing facilities and others. Group 4 would be your large hardware stores, large automotive shops with significant quantities. And group 5 are bulk flammable liquid storage, think generators and other bulk flammable liquid storage type operations. The current fees for group 1 is $400 annually. The proposed increase matches the 78% increase since 2003 in Consumer Price Index, 78%, bringing that annual fee to $710. Group 2 from $800 to just over $1,400. Group 3 from $1,250 to $2,225. Group 4 from $800, $1,650 to $1,425, just under $3,000. And our group 5s from $550 to $980 plus $200 for each tank. Those are our proposed increases to the SHU fees. As discussed on the first slide, and this group knows very well, is there are some new operational permits in the 2024 code, and that includes battery storage and handling operational permit, and that's focused on those facilities that have lithium-ion batteries in significant quantities at or above 15 cubic feet. And there's also a new operational permit involving heating, cooking, and warming fires, specifically in high vulnerability areas such as construction sites, event tents, and wildland urban interface areas. Moving to the code, which you all know very, very well, and I appreciate that. And I actually won't even, you know all this stuff, so I won't go through it, but we are going to request council action to adopt the 2024 fire code at our December 17th or 18th council meeting, 17th council meeting. We're excited about that. We have briefed all the council members on that. And an important question that I think is critical for the fee discussion, and that is to answer the question of what have we done to inform the public, inform our customers that we are considering increasing fees in the proposal that we discussed here today. And as Adam discussed, we did present this at the Development Advisory Board. They did approve the fee increase unanimously at the recommendation that Adam provided to build resiliency in the program. For the both planning and development services and the fire department, we are doing listening sessions. We actually have one this morning at 11 o'clock with stakeholders to share this information, gather feedback specific to the fire department. In addition to all the excellent work that John and team do here, we're sending automatic emails to our customers who interact with us and inform them. We did the 60-day posting on our website and got over 3,000 looks at the website. We did run those analytics here recently. The emails went out to over 600 folks. We did send email out to our email group, which is almost 1,000 email addresses. And we are asking for feedback in the process. At this time, with all of that communication, we have thankful that we've had no resistance or concerns brought to us from the community, from our customers on our proposed increase. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to Adam. Adam, do you want to hit anything on this slide? I think I probably pretty much covered it.
No, I think you covered it, Chief. Yeah, I mean, this is just kind of the formal outreach, but thank you for highlighting and summarizing all the other activities that are taking place. Obviously, we're here with the Fire Safety Advisory Board today. We'll be going to the Transportation Infrastructure Planning Subcommittee next week, so that's a Wednesday morning meeting next week, and then for formal council consideration on December 17th. If council approves the recommendations, the council action would take effect on January 20th, which is actually a Tuesday. But that sort of, I think, rounds out our presentation, and we'd both be happy to entertain any questions from the board.
Yeah, this is Jim. Thank you very much. I just have a couple questions. You mentioned AI. I look at, been talking to some people that I know in the medical industry. Already today, you can use AI for CT scans to look at abnormal things that are going on within a human body. Where do you see it really happening? Because I would think in the architecture space, in literally looking at permits at some point, that would be able to take a heavy lift off of at least the first scans to say, are you meeting what you're looking for, especially if you have that format? With that being said, what's your projections of potentially, we're talking about raising fees. I understand you did a nice job laying out why and when it's been improved, but I guess where are you seeing that go down? Across the globe, we're seeing right now that potential jobs are going to be eliminated because of the technology. That's my first question. Do you see the roadmap on that, and do you have that plotted out? And my second question that always gives me pause when I hear economic turndown, we need to have enough money to float us through that. Normal business on the outside, they would furlough people because that's what they would have to do. And it always gives me pause when I hear government saying, well, we're just going to have enough money to carry us through all that and not do what normal business would have to do to keep the lights on when there's an economic turndown. So I guess, that makes me concerned that it's almost like we're fat right now. And then if it gets down, guess what? We can carry ourselves through that. So just a couple comments.
Chair, members of the board, I can start with some answers to that, particularly the second question. I'll look to Adam to help me with the others. When I look at the status of the development fund specifically, I see a fiscal cliff coming where, cutting services is going to be the reality unless, the actions are taken. I see that, to your point of the potential for recession, I hear you loud and clear. And for enterprise funds, specifically in city services, in instances where recessions happen, we come together, I think, in a way that I have been very proud of, to core up services to the extent we can, furlough, employee compensation cuts, to balance that out appropriately. As Adam discussed, the city cannot run a budget deficit. But I think my answer that is most perspective I would offer you, sort of specific to building resiliency in this space, is it's very important for us to be able to be reactive and resilient in the instance that things slow down a little bit, but don't crash catastrophic. And that is to suggest that the worst thing that could happen in a recession is, especially a mild recession, which is what Adam is discussing and what might be contemplated here, is to be able to sustain to a certain extent and not have to make drastic cuts, because in that instance, it becomes extremely difficult and painful to ramp up to support the economy as things improve. It takes a very long time to train staff. It takes a very long time to onboard staff. So, I mean, Board Member McIlvaney experiences, as many of us in this room here did on the government side, the impact of significant recession and the layoffs associated. It takes decades for government to recover. So no one is suggesting that we should fatten up and be able to have a lot of employees and a lot of services that aren't needed. But I am suggesting having a little bit of resiliency in the instance of an economic blip and not cutting services is in the best interest of our customers, our community we serve. And Adam, I would offer to you, sir, maybe you can speak to the AI pieces and add any other considerations that were brought up in Jim's excellent question.
Well, thank you, Chief. And I see that Assistant Director Marianne Fatinos is on the call, and she's heading up our IT integration, the SHAPE project, and we'll have some good information, I think, to share on the AI question. So I'll turn it over to Marianne in just a second. But to follow up on what Chief Christ was saying about the resiliency and fattening up, and I really appreciate your comments there at the end, Chief, pertaining to the cost of recovery, the cost of rebuilding institutional knowledge. We've experienced that. We experienced that in a very painful manner during and after the Great Recession. And in fact, we still have not recovered from the cuts that were incurred at that time. Now, the other thing that I just want to highlight, I think it's very important to Board Member Petrovsky's question, is that the fund balance is just one of the tools that we have for resiliency. In order to avoid the concern that you raise and concerns that our leadership and council members have also raised with respect to fattening up so that we can, float a recession. And that's language I understand that I used. So my apologies on that front. But we have a large inventory of on-call contractors. And so we use our on-call contractors in order to cover our demands when we go through periods of accelerated building activity. And then when we go through slowdowns in building activity, that's the first area that we will begin to cut. And so when we're looking at our staffing levels long-term and being able to get through recessions, what we're talking about is kind of a base staffing level. And we have enlisted the help of the city auditor. We have enlisted the help of the Budget and Research Department to work with us to determine what is that kind of right size, long-term right size for the Planning and Development Department. And what can we do to ensure that we're the most nimble department in our ability to respond to economic shifts, with the on-call contracts being probably our priority on both directions. And before I turn it over to Marianne, I'll just pause to ask the board member if we answered your question sufficiently, or if you have any follow-ups on that topic before we get into the AI.
No, thank you. Thank you both for answering that. No, that helps a lot. I mean, I like to hear that you've got contract staff for what I would call the peaks, and you're keeping a base. That's good news to me, right? So you're managing it. I don't have intimate knowledge of the way you run your business inside, so sorry about that. If I would have understood that, I probably wouldn't ask that question like that. But for the peaks and flows like that, you need to, the highs and lows, managing it with offsite contractors makes total sense to me. And then having a base group of people that you don't have to retrain, I totally understand that. So that was well explained. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Marianne, you want to tackle the AI?
Adam, before you go on, this is Joe McIlvaney. Related to Jim's comment, though, is I guess if development services could develop, and with fire department, some type of trigger points, I guess, that if a recession would happen, these are the steps would happen. Hey, it makes sense to have, let's say, 4 months reserved to cover everybody. But after 4 months of a deep recession, it's time to start thinking about cuts. But at the same time, if I purchase a permit from Development Service of Fire, there's at the back end called the inspection piece that I pay for services that I still expect to happen. And that needs to be covered forever until my permit's done, whatever. So I understand that part too. And maybe this is where when you're looking at your fee studies, you outline some type of trigger points for us as a community to understand that, right? What will happen at 4 months or 5 months or 6 months? Because I think that's would help us all understand it. Because that's what we all have in our own facility, our own businesses. We have internal triggers that we look at our numbers every month and every quarter to decide, do we hire or cut or status quo, I guess. And maybe that would help us out. And I guess, AI's here, we're using it now, and I'll let, your other colleague talk about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Board Member McElvaney. I do want to mention, first of all, thank you for the comments. I mentioned at my introduction that my section is responsible for our growth projections. And we've primarily used those growth projections for the purpose of infrastructure planning. We are actively working to build a revenue forecasting model where we will be using those growth projections to forecast revenue on a short term. And so that's one area where we can improve and are seeking to improve is anticipating when these downturns may come or when accelerated activity might come. If you've gone through a development, if you've done a new development project, you understand these things don't happen overnight. And so we have a lot of the information at our fingertips to let us know with pretty high level of accuracy what we can anticipate over a 1 to 3 year time frame. And I think that will go a long way in being able to accomplish the suggestions that the Board Member McElvaney brought up. Mary Ann, you want to take it away on AI?
Absolutely. Thank you. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Chair, Mr. Piotrowski, Adam, everybody here. Earlier in both presentations, both Adam and Chief Christ referred to our partnership in technology with the fire department. And we are very excited that we are nearing the third and final release of what they called Shape Phoenix. It's a very modern, transparent, kind of represents the newest technology available for permitting, planning, permitting processes and inspections. And so in April, we are going to go live with release 3, which will cover all the functionality in planning and development. Then we will be working on an effort to make sure that the system supports all the functionality that the fire plan review and permitting at 12th Street Fire needs. And that will be, we anticipate that will go live in December of 28. So we have a lot of resources working on that right now. However, we recognize that at the same time, AI groups are coming at our council, our city manager's office. We see AI in the community. It's kind of coming from everywhere. But we've made such a significant commitment and investment in this new permitting system. We want to make sure that we are very, very strategic about how we approach AI. So we are getting ready to have an engagement with a consultant that's kind of been our partner throughout this Shape Phoenix technology effort. It's Gartner, and we will be working with them starting on that roadmap concept. So they have AI experts, but they also have a large practice, that's expertise, is in planning, zoning, and permitting and licensing. And so combining those kind of really expert resources to help us begin with some strategy. We're going to have a 3-month engagement coming up here real soon, hoping to identify some future strategy. You know, we need to work within the constraints of city AI rules and regulations and security. And then we're hoping to have some use cases here very soon, but it's a very delicate balance of making sure that it's fully complementary to our this huge investment that we've made. But we know we can't wait too long. And so that's why we're taking a little resources away from Shape Phoenix and kind of just putting some on AI strategy. And one of the items that was mentioned that I think will be something that we will be looking at is the way it can help with checking whether plans are complete when they come in. So you get a more quality plan that comes in, or you could load in other things that you want it to check, the AI application to check. And then you would be able to maybe significantly reduce staff time on a turnaround for an admin review or something like that. So, but again, we want to make sure we're very strategic about this and that whatever we does complements our large investment. But we are really excited to start looking at what is out there in the market as far as AI support for review, permitting, and inspections. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, that was helpful for sure. I appreciate that. Obviously, governance and control is a big deal because everybody and their brother is starting to learn how to, create little agents to do things, and how you manage that, I think, is a real important part. I guess I liked it when you're talking about reviewing the drawings. It would be nice as if a builder could have a first review where somebody on your side wouldn't even have to do it. You had an AI site that, say I was a builder and I had a bunch of plans and I just wanted to put it in there and to do a cursory review right away, that first thing. So before you even had to spend a minute time on it, you would kick it back to him and said, you're missing this, 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 this. And then it would go back into a human being that had, so ideally that first turn that typically takes a long time, they've knocked out maybe 50, 70% of the issues on there before it goes to human. So it sounds like you got the strategy you're working on. So I'm looking forward to seeing the improvements.
Yes, and we did meet with a company that does something very, very similar. Not sure how it would exactly could work for the city of Phoenix, but they will take the plans in and kind of give them a score. And I think then a city might say, well, if you don't score over 80, don't even bother submitting your plans. That's just one of the many AI efforts out there that they're approaching cities with. And I think where they've been able to show some success is rebuilding after the California wildfires. And so they're having to, of course, really ramp up their plan review for rebuilding all these areas, inspections for rebuilding all these areas, and they are using this tool. So they've kind of found a use case where they could use it, and we're watching how that works for them as well.
Thank you. I don't have any more questions.
Do any other questions or comments?
Madam Chair, this is Joe McElvany. I think this board would like to be involved in that process as you move forward, because it's going to affect us. So if you have a working group that we can be involved in that process and see what you're looking at, because we are also doing AI in our daily life, and maybe we can share some of our experiences. I know NFPA and ICC has AI now in their code development process, in their codes, which is grateful. And there's other CAD and other people are doing the same kind of concepts. And like you said, like Jim said, if we could do it through a first pass and make our lives easier so that we know we're going to get a good review and move forward, I think that's benefit for all parties.
Absolutely, Mr. McElvany. And fire, we do have a governance process where fire has been involved in Shape from the very beginning. And so we have representatives on all of the committees that look at that, the steering committee, the executive committee. And so I think we could certainly set up something very similar to bringing fire representation into even these first discovery type meetings that we're having with our consultant.
Yes, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions regarding, so and we'll also be looking for a motion to approve the proposed fire prevention fee schedule. Obviously, we're still accepting questions and stuff, but I just wanted to know that is another motion we will be looking for.
Yeah. Madam Chair, Joe
Thank you.
McElhenney again. You know, I have no problem with the fees structure, what they're proposing. However, we all know that the city negotiates with the employees every 3 years. Every 3 years, we should be coming with a fee increase because we know what that fee is going to be. We know employees are going to get pay raises. Benefit packages are going to increase. You know, we all know that because healthcare keeps on increasing. And I would like to see some type of commitment from the city staff that every 3 years, when they get a new contract for their employees, that we see a package come to us, right? It's easier for us to swallow small bites and big bites, I guess, right? And I think that commitment needs to come from the city to us. And if not, I think this board will hold the city accountable for that. The only other item I had is, and I talked to Eric about it, is there's a new fee for the wireline area for outdoor cooking. Unfortunately, we don't have a wireline area interface designated, so that fee really doesn't do us any good until we do that. So I would ask for some type of commitment from the city to evaluate this and either adopt the ICC wireline interface code and develop a map and go through that process, because I think it needs to be happening sooner or later, because we saw what happened in LA and it could happen in Phoenix. And I do not like to see the city of Phoenix in the news in a negative way. And if that happens, I can tell you, people will lose their job because of it. And that's not a good thing. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments to the presentation? If not, may I please have a motion to approve the proposed fire prevention fee schedule as presented and emailed?
Madam Chair, this is Joe Mack. When I make a motion to approve,
Second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor, aye? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, thank you. And Mr. Williams, was there anybody else who joined for, oh, thank you, for the public? Has anybody joined from the public side?
Madam Chair, we have no members of the public present and we have no request to speak to the board at this time.
Okay, thank you. So then I believe, thank you. Is there any other future matters for discussion? And I know that Mr. McElhaney just brought up one or a few just based upon the conversations that we had.
Madam Chair, this is Tim Kreis. Respect,
Yes.
If the board would like, we did a presentation in February of this year to the full council at the policy meeting, which demonstrated the work that we've done since 2019 on the wildland urban interface. And Mr. McElhaney is absolutely correct in the importance of managing the wildland urban interface and identifying those areas at significant risk. We have done that and developed a very comprehensive community risk reduction effort to include deployment of a vast number of resources to any reported wildland fire in the 43,000 acres that we identified in our most recent assessment of the community, which was done in 2024, I believe, maybe might have been done in January. In any case, if the board would like, we can present our wildland interface program and comprehensive community risk reduction strategy to answer Mr. McElhaney's question in a later meeting.
Madam Chair, that'd be very useful, but at the same time, having the map, that's more of a reactive for our operations side. I truly believe there's a fire prevention piece of this that we need to adopt. It will affect the home builder associations and other people like that, but I think we are infringing and building on those areas more and more, and we need to adopt the urban wildland interface code, period. That's my strong belief.
Mr. McElvaney, do you believe that the presentation to at least get us all on the same page, based upon
Yep.
what Chief Christ proposed would be helpful, knowing what you know?
Oh, yes, definitely. Yep.
Okay, great. So then, yes, if we can, I believe in the beginning of your statement, Chief Christ, you had said something about, did you say February? Did you say a date? I couldn't, it cracked out for
Oh,
me.
yes, Chair, Madam Chair, members of the board, we presented on this to the full council at their February policy meeting with both
Okay.
fire and water, our whole urban interface program, as it stood at that time.
Okay. So you already have the presentation prepared. It would not put any more labor hours into it. It's pretty prepared for us to see it.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. So yes, if we could add that, then that would be great.
Madam Chairperson, this is Mike Wilson. I just have a quick question. So having been on the board since early 2000s with a gap in there, as we transition from the legacy system into the SHAPE system, do we have any recent surveys of end users as to what their experience has been, what level of improvement they've seen, at the floor level?
Mr. Wilson, I can speak, this is Eric Williams. I can speak from our aspect. We were part of release 1. Plan development department was very helpful in getting us some of our more common permits out, the state license. I can tell you right now that what we've seen, the enhancements and the productivity increasement and the cost savings from release 1 has been tremendous. Unfortunately, that was only about 11 of our 168 operational permits. So release 4, we will go live in 2028 is the anticipated date. But I can tell you from our aspect and from feedback from our customers, the ability to submit online, to pay online, to apply online, to have that seamless integration, to be able to schedule with your inspector remotely, to see the status of your inspection, just the comprehensive what Shape Phoenix brings to the end user in our community has had tremendous positive feedback, and from our staff too. It has really increased our staff's ability to engage the customer and to get to the demands of the state license community, because we have an aging population and our state licensing permit program is growing every year because of that. And Shape Phoenix really came in at the right time to help us with that workload. So I can say from an end user, for our customers and for us, we are very excited in release 4 when we migrate all of fire prevention over to Shape Phoenix. And I think at that point, the rest of our operational permit customers and community will see the benefits, but also at that point, the development sector that we interact with when it comes to system impairments and hazard material system installations, they'll start seeing those benefits as the community is already going to start seeing with release 3 with PDDs for that.
Very quick question to you guys.
Thank you.
Do you want me to jump in a little bit on the Shape Phoenix if you benefits realization?
Female country's daughters, just like whatever. Send them, we're okay.
Please.
Unless we want to make it an agenda item for later.
Sure, we can do that in the future too. We can talk about what our efforts are to try to realize the benefits of Shape. It's really very challenging to do apples to apples comparison when the systems are so different, and the Shape encompasses so much more than Kiva ever did. But we do have we've spent a lot of work putting together and analyzing benefits realization. We have some plans for how we're going to enhance that effort with our third release, and we'd be happy to talk about that with you.
Okay, great. Mr. Williams, would you take that as just also an option?
Yes.
Thank you. Any other future discussion topics? All right, thank you. Moving on to item number 6, which is adjournment. May I please have a motion to adjourn at 11:03? Or do I have to?
Moved.
Thank you. In a second.
Second.
Thank you. Again, I always confuse myself if I have to have an adjournment motion, but motion, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Williams, Chief Christ, for being here, and Adam, if you're still on, and Marianne for presenting everything.